Hello, and welcome to Brassy Business Podcast, where we talk about the good, the bad, and ugly with business owners and what they have done to make their businesses shine. I'm your host, Haley Ruff, and let's talk business. Let's jump right into a little life update. There's not a lot that went on this week. The weather has been beautiful, and I've enjoyed going up and doing chores every day and kind of just went through the motions this week. So I don't have a big life update for this week. Besides, we are kind of on a little break from calving and we'll pick back up sometime in May. So that's kind of where I'm at. So let's jump in to the episode. This week, we are talking with someone who is all about making sure that your horse's health is taken care of. She offers sports massage for your equine athletes. I cannot wait to hear about this business, what she does, why she started, and heck, even the plans that she has. Today, I am talking with Martina Loobey, the owner of Mistified Massage from Whitewood, South Dakota. So, welcome to the show, Martina. Can you tell us a little bit about your business and about yourself?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I started a business back in 2017. It's called Mistified Massage LLC, and I am an equine sports massage therapist. And so I travel around my area working on horses, just kind of helping them. They're just like us, and so if you were to go run a marathon tomorrow, your body was probably like, I don't think we should do that, and they get sore just like we do. And so my job is to try and help keep them in perfect condition to compete in whatever discipline it is that they do. And so that's what my business is. I branded it after a mare that I had. Her name was Misty, so that's where the Mystified Massage came from. But yeah, I've had it since 2017 and I'm just trying to build on it ever since.
Cool. Excuse me. Cool. So I like to start at the beginning. So can you take us like all the way back and tell me why you decided to start it in the first place?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, my past history is I was a rodeo queen. I was a rodeo queen for like 10 plus years. And I went to a rodeo in Rapid City, and there was this gal that had a booth set up, and she had a sign right outside that said, like equine massage or something like that. And I was like, well, I've never heard of that before. And so I just walked up and started talking to her, asking her different questions, found out that she was actually from our area and she put on schools so you could actually go and learn equine massage. And I thought, wow, that's really cool. Like, I really like that. And so after that was, I think when I was maybe a freshman in high school. And so then I told myself after I graduate high school, I was going to go to that school. So I graduated in 2016 and I took all the money that I got from little graduation gifts from people, and I paid to go get this certification for equine massage. And then I decided, well, I still really want to help people too. I was torn between like going to vet school or like, do I want to become a nurse? Because I love helping people and I want to be able to combine the two. And so actually that fall, I went to school for human massage therapy. And so then I graduated in 2017 with a license for people and started working at a spa in Deadwood, South Dakota. And I just was like, this is not my jam. Like, I don't like being, stuck in a box. I didn't really have control over the clients I was seeing. I didn't really have control over my schedule. And I'm like, this just isn't filling my cup. Like, I like to do the work, but the atmosphere is just not what I want. And so it really drove me to like dig deeper, figure out what I wanted to do. And that's when I decided horses are what like set my soul on fire. That's what makes me super excited about what I do. And so that's when I was like, okay, this is when I'm building a business off of it. And so that's how Mystified Massage was born.
And where are you located at? Because at the beginning you had said that you service your area. So what is your area?
Yeah, so I am just north of Sturgis, South Dakota, and I travel all over the place. If there's enough horses, like I will travel to you, but I mostly stay fairly local, like, Rapid City, Spearfish, Deadwood, that sort of area, as of right now.
Awesome. So let's go back in a little bit. So rodeo is a big part of your life, like you said, and you
Yeah.
were Miss Rodeo South Dakota in 2019, but 2019 rolled over into 2020. So being Miss Rodeo South Dakota, that was a big responsibility in itself. So how did you kind of juggle both Miss Rodeo South Dakota and your business at the same time?
Oh, that was difficult, let me tell you. Yeah, I was crowned in 2019, but I didn't officially take over the title until 2020. And so like the first 2.5 months of my reign, I was traveling constantly. So I hadn't touched a horse in like 3 months into 2020. And then, everything kind of hit the fan and and I wasn't able to travel as much. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe I can just stay at home and work on horses while I've got this downtime. But then the lovely ripple effects of COVID and people, not spending as much money and whatever, it definitely slowed my business down. And unfortunately, when I was Miss Radio South Dakota, my regular full-time job, we'll call it, kind of got rid of the position that I had. And so I was really like screwed almost for a while. And I was just really depending on, the horses that came in. And obviously I had a big fundraiser before I started my year. But so yeah, that took a back seat. And then I ended up with the title for another year. I canceled the Miss Radio America pageant and said, "Do you want to take the title again?" And I knew I would regret it if I had said no. So I said yes. And then the business took a back seat again. And I really tried to fit horses in while I was home or if I was at a rodeo. I really tried, but it was so hard because you had such early mornings and very late nights. And so it was hard to find someone that was like, "Oh yeah, I'll get up at 6 o'clock so you can massage my horse." Like it just didn't work out. And so I felt like I lost 2 years of really putting a lot into my business and it just sat there. And so there was basically no growth with it for 2 years.
So, for somebody who isn't necessarily in the rodeo world, can you kind of tell them what being Miss Rodeo South Dakota entailed and just how much there is to it? And then it'll kind of put a little bit more in perspective as to why it had to go on the back burner so much.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I served as the first lady of professional rodeo for the state of South Dakota. And that means that I represented our Western lifestyle, our ag industry, our rodeo industry, our Western lifestyle. And I was required to attend all of the PRCA rodeos in South Dakota. I went to a lot of different functions like school visits and banquets and hospital visits and a lot of queen contests. And I was a clinician for different rodeo queen clinics. And so my schedule was absolutely packed. Like I pretty much had another person that was telling me when and where I was going to go someplace. And so having, I didn't exactly have a ton of freedom in my schedule. I did to an extent, but there was a lot of things I was required to go to. Like there was just no choice and I had to attend. I, I loved every single minute of being Miss Radio South Dakota, but it is a very high demanding job because not only were you responsible for, showing up in person to all these events, I was contacting sponsors. I was running social media. I was trying to promote all these different types of events. And on top of that, I was studying my butt off for the Miss Radio America pageant. That's like our national pageant. And so the downtime that I had was prepping to compete at Miss Radio America. So I basically had a board of people that I was working for 2 years that told me exactly what I needed to do. And it's a big deal. It's the highest title that you can get in South Dakota, and it's a big responsibility. And so that's why it it took a back seat.
And not only with that, like I'm currently in a hoodie and a Carhartt hat. You can't show up to an event looking like
No,
I do
you
right
can't.
now. So that's why you were having to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and have a full
Oh,
face of
yeah.
makeup on and a hat and all the things.
Yep. Eventually I did get my time down to an hour and a half to complete makeup, hair, and getting dressed. We started out at 2 hours at one point.
Oh, duh. So then when your Miss Rodeo South Dakota title was over, so how did you kind of jump back into things then?
Oh man, that's another story. Yeah, title I gave up my title January of 2022. I crowned the new girl and I thought, "Sweet. My schedule is totally open. I get to go back to what I'm doing. Get to focus on what I want to focus on. My only responsibility now is doing what I want and what makes me happy." And then I fell into this hole of I had no idea how to go back to normal. I was so used to knowing exactly what I was doing, you know, where, what, why. I knew what I was doing all the time. I had this strict schedule, this strict routine. Um, I knew exactly what I was doing. And then all of a sudden that was gone. And I was like, I don't know how to manage my time. Like I felt empty almost because that title, like you have it for a year, right? But you don't plan it for 2 years. And so it truly became a part of my identity. And I kind of feel like it almost swallowed my identity sometimes. Like I wasn't just Martina, I was Martina Loobey, Miss Radio South Dakota. And that just like followed me. That's just who I was. And so I forgot about the things that, truly made my heart happy. Like the roots that I had were lost. And so I had to put a lot of work into myself to like figure out what I loved again. And it took about a year before I was back to feeling like normal, like this was normal. And a lot of queens go through it, but like no one talks about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was talking to some former queens, I'm like, I don't know what to do with myself. Like I don't know how to jump back into, something. And especially my business after it's sitting for 2 years, I'm like, how do I just pick up and start where I left off? Because there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and it just seems so overwhelming that I didn't know where to start.
Mm-hmm. So where did you
So it was
start?
just I just started contacting the clients that I had that I still saw as regularly as I could in those 2 years. And then it was like, okay, I need to get better. I just did a whole bunch of social media for my queening. Let's apply those tools to my own personal page and let's try and get that going. And I ended up doing a lot of Little Britches rodeos where the gal that ran them, super nice gal. She didn't even charge me to set up, I didn't have a vendor fee or anything. And so I brought the products that I brought into my business. I set them up there. I was doing chair massages there and I just started talking to people. And so those little britches rodeos and those little tiny vendor spaces that I had, I feel like that helped propel me and like gave me a start again. And then it like got me back into my groove. And I mean, we're still trying to gain more clients and get back into a groove, but that's probably what really got me back into it.
Right. And that happens so much to where you have so much stuff on your plate that you're like, I don't even know where to start. Like, there is a mountain in front of me
Yeah.
that I have to climb, and it's just one thing at a time. Pick the easiest thing and start there.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, I just want this to be a good business. And I was so like sad and almost depressed that like it just sat, on the back burner for 2 years. And I was like, I should have been doing more, but it's like in reality, I had no time to do more. So yeah, I kind of felt like I was starting from the ground up again.
Right. What does the process look like for your clients? I book you, and then what happens next for the session?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you reached out to me and said, "Hey, I think my horse could benefit from this," or "I've got some questions for you," I'll kind of ask you some routine questions like, "What is it that you do with your horse? What do you think the issues are that you're having? Like, what are you seeing or what are you feeling while you're riding?" Ask you if you've tried anything else. Have you seen a vet or a chiropractor, or have you given him pain meds or something for an example, just trying to figure out maybe what the issue might be over the phone, just so I can get a better idea. And then you and I will pick the best time that works for you if you're coming to me or if I'm coming to see you. And then when we get there, I'll, for brand new client, obviously have a little discussion about what it is I do and who I am. And then I will have them walk the horse away from me so I can just kind of see if he's moving pretty freely and pretty relaxed, or if I feel like we're short stepping somewhere, or if I feel like we're just super tensed up, or if we're not, reaching out in the front end or whatever. And then a lot of times I might have them trot them, away from me and then back towards me. Sometimes I'll lunge them in a circle just to get an idea of how their body's moving. And then after that, then I'll go with like my initial palpation. I usually start at the pole, work my way down the neck and their back just to see if there's any points where they go, okay, that's pretty sore. Okay, that hurts. So I know where to focus a little bit more of my time. And then I literally just start at their nose and work my way to their tail.
Nose to tail. Nose to
Nose
tail.
to tail.
So you've worked on humans and you've worked on
Yeah.
horses. So can you kind of tell
Yes.
me what are some of the struggles? What are some of the differences besides, like equine and human on working on animals versus humans?
Yeah. So, I mean, humans are obviously a lot easier to communicate with. They can actually point exactly where it's hurting, explain to me if they did something to injure it, explain to me if they've got a history with, whatever condition it might be. And so it's a lot easier for me to be able to help them because they can tell me exactly what's going on. For horses, they can't do that. And so I really have to use my touch and watch their body language and watch the signs that they're giving me to try and figure out, is this the place that is the issue, or is it referring to this place? And so it's maybe a lot more like mentally exhausting for horses because I'm putting so much more energy into it. Um, Massage therapists, they often like schedule a break in between, people or horses, and it's because we're not just like physically tired, now we're like mentally tired because we had to put like all of this energy into you, right? I got so burnt out of working on people though. And it was after working at the spa, just not having that control that I wanted with clients and not having the return clientele. And I just wasn't able to build a relationship with anybody, in a touristy town. And there wasn't, we'd have a lot of people that came in regularly for hair and nails, but massage just wasn't something that they were coming in regularly for. And so it was hard for me to like feel comfortable almost. And in a spa setting, like there were some weird things that happen that just make you go, I don't want to be a part of that. And so that I enjoy that more with horses because I don't feel that type of pressure. Like I don't feel like anything is going to make me feel uncomfortable. I'm comfortable around horses, and I know that that person there is obviously another horse person just like me. And so it's a lot easier to build those connections with them versus someone that I don't know on a table.
Right. Yeah. And that
Yeah.
whole non-returning customer thing, that had to have been a struggle because you didn't ever really get past surface level with anybody.
Yes, exactly. I would work there full time, and I was during the week and weekends, but our busiest times were on the weekends, and they would be just random people, and then I'd never see them again because they're just in town for a birthday or they're in town for a concert, and then that was it. And so I didn't get that experience of, seeing someone on my books and being excited to see them again and see how they were doing, but I get that way with horses. Like if their owners say, "Hey, he's doing really good. Like I just clocked a 17-second run, whatever." Like that makes me excited, and I just didn't get that with people.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, are there certain signs that we're looking for, or when do you recommend that someone gets scheduled for an equine massage then for their horse?
Sure. So if someone reaches out to me, they want a massage, whatever, I listen to their concerns and then I actually put my hands on the horse. If I have a horse that is super hard to get through the massage, like whether they just are having a hard time accepting the therapy that I'm doing, whether they're very, very sore, that's when I'm going to say, "Hey, let's repeat this maybe in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or at least once a month." Because you have to be so careful when you're doing therapy on horses to like stay under their radar so that way they'll let you in, because otherwise that horse is going to block you out and then everything that you're doing is pretty much useless if they don't accept it. And so there's a lot of times I have to just be super, super slow with the horses that I'm working on. And so oftentimes that first initial massage, if they're not super receptive to what I'm doing, then I'm not 100% convinced that what I did was going to be beneficial. Like it would be for a little bit, but not as good as it could be. So then that's when I'm going to say, "Hey, I want to see him again in 2 weeks or whenever your next available time is, or whenever you're not going to be running him for a little bit to give him a break." Some horses that are very active and, they're well taken care of, might not see him for a couple months unless they have an issue. Sometimes with older horses or, maybe super arthritic horses, I like to keep them on a fairly regular schedule just because they're older. And I know it makes them feel a little more comfortable. And I have a lot of people that, just want a baby. They're geriatric horses, we'll say. And so they're probably more regular too. At least, a couple times a month just to make them feel good, even if they're retired. So that's kind of what I base it off of.
Then retired horses get spoiled.
Because they deserve it.
They did. They earned it.
They
They
dedicated
earned
their
it.
life to you.
So, what is the like rest period? I guess is what I'm trying to say. What's the rest period for a horse after they get their massage?
Yeah, typically I'd like to ask that they have at least 3 days off unless they've been super, super sore. Then I'll ask for a little bit more time, but I don't wanna put all of this effort in, putting all this energy and putting all this hard work in, and then them go run the next day and it gets undone like that. And then we're back at square one. And so I really like for them to have time off and then for them to just be in. I don't want them in a small pen. I want them somewhere where they can get out and move around and work their own muscles and go roll around if they want to and go run and play and just, loosen themselves up after it. So 3 days is like my rule. And then if it's, a worst case of very, very sore and a lot of issues, then I'll usually maybe 5 days, but it just depends. But for sure, three.
So, what age of horses are we doing this to?
Let's see. The second school that I went to, I was doing this on yearlings and 2-year-olds.
Okay.
And I've done everything up to your 30-year-old horse.
Okay. What
Yeah.
problems do you see then with the youngins, with the yearlings and the weanlings?
Youngins, well, you're working with them a lot. They're learning a lot. They're learning how to move their body. And obviously, their awkward growth stages just, I mean, we've got growing pains. And so that's probably the biggest thing I see with them is you're working them hard. You're obviously training them. They're learning how to move their body. They're figuring out different muscles and being goofy. They're babies. They're gonna go run amok in the pen and do some dumb stuff, and so then you gotta go try and help fix it for them. So that's typically what you see with young ones.
Okay. That makes sense. I was just curious.
Yeah.
All the
Yeah, no,
questions.
it's a legit question.
So, horses communicate through movement and their body language, right?
Yep.
So, have you always been able to kind of like hone in on a horse and read their body language and what it's trying to tell you? Or was that a learned skill as you got into this?
I think it was kind of a combination of both. I was, raised on a ranch, started riding horses at a very young age. And so I had that education. So I was, already comfortable around horses, already knew the signs of them, getting mad, upset, irritated, what to do, what not to do. And then when I started working at a vet clinic and going through all my schooling for my massage certifications and even for people, that's when I really started to like tune into different things that they were doing, pinning their ears or wrinkling their nose or like the release signs of licking, chewing. Sometimes they do that, the flaming where they like curl their upper lip, even blinking being toned into like seeing how many times they blink over a certain area. Like they blink obviously just like we do normally, but sometimes if you go over a spot, it's going to be like 3 or 4 blinks like immediately. Sometimes when they, roll back that eyelid, just a lot of things. And so that stuff was very much learned, but I feel like a lot of it did come naturally. So it was easier for me to pick up on those things.
Okay. Interesting. Very
Yeah.
interesting. The horse industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, but
Yeah.
it's also all over the United States. It is not local to one area at all. So, do you just stay in like the Western South Dakota area or do you travel?
I mean, I pretty much stay in the Western South Dakota area. But like I said, I mean, I have traveled out of state to go work on horses, and I would do it for anyone for, the right amount of horses to make my travel over there worth it. Definitely not opposed to that. Just haven't reached probably that far of a clientele yet, unless I meet them, through work or whatever. I work at a vet clinic, and we service clients from literally everywhere. So if they wanted me to travel, I would definitely do it.
So, where have you gone in the past?
I mean, besides around here, North Dakota, Wyoming, Montana.
Did you go to Arizona? Is that what I saw?
Yeah, I did go to Arizona. I forgot about that. Yeah, I went to Arizona in January and I went down there just to be able to ride my own horse because again, with everything with the queening and stuff, like my own horse didn't even get the attention that he needed. And so I finally was like, you know what? I'm going to Arizona. I'm going to go ride my horse and I'm going to go work on some horses. So I did get to do that. And that was that was like the trip that heals your soul, and you just need one of those trips. Like that was that trip for me.
So it's therapeutic for you too.
Oh, working on horses is definitely therapeutic for me. Like sometimes, like if a client wants to sit there and talk with me, love it. Sometimes if we just sit there in silence, that's fine too. But I'm just so genuinely happy when I'm working on horses. And people ask me like, "Do you ever get tired?" And I'm like, "Yes, I do get tired, but it's also like recharging for me because I feel so good after I do it."
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. Horse chiropractic is big, right? Making
Yeah.
sure
Mhm.
everything is in line just like it is for humans. Do you have a chiropractor that you kind of work with? Like, hey, I just took my horse here and we got everything put into place, but I feel like you need something more, that they maybe send them to you, or are you kind of just like soloing it?
No, I work with a couple actually. That happens to me all the time where we get a horse that if we just maybe can't pinpoint what's going on. And so either, they come to me first and then I'll say, okay, I think we've got something else that I can't quite get. And so there's a gal in Belfouche that I work with a lot, Terry Kissick. She's very well known in the area, and she learned from a guy named Bill Hackett. And this was like a long, long time ago. So in the massage world, when I was learning people massage, a long time ago, there was no like licensing required, right? And it was just like a learned skill. And then obviously licensing became a thing and became required. And so some of those people were just, after they'd done so many hours of massage therapy, they were just grandfathered in and never had to take like the national exam. So this is kind of the same way that Terry learned chiropractic. That was kind of the same flow of things. But I work with her constantly on horses. We bounce horses back and forth all the time. Sometimes we're there the same day working on horses and working together on a specific horse. There's another gal out of Rapid City. Her name is Dr. Jenna Worry. I'm not sure if I'm saying her last name correctly or not, but she has Western Edge Chiropractic and she travels all over the place working on horses. And sometimes when Terry's busy or when she's busy, like we just flip flop back and forth about with horses. And those are the two that I mainly work with because yeah, sometimes neither one of us can get everything, on the first try, or we just need some extra help. And so we work a lot together.
So working with them, you kind of make like the holistic approach. Like let's make sure everything's in
Hmm.
the correct place, and then let's make sure that the muscles are also feeling good so that the ligaments and everything are staying in place.
Yes, something that we learned in people school, like if you go to the chiropractor and then, a couple days later you're feeling back to how you were, sometimes those muscles get so tight that they just want to jerk everything back out of where they just put it. And so sometimes I'll ask people like, "Hey, let's do a massage first, then I'm going to send you to a chiropractor and make it a little bit easier so they're even just a little bit more relaxed." Because horses, sometimes, especially with chiropractic, when you make those sudden adjustments, they're going to be like, a little twitchy and a little unsure of what you're doing. And so if they're a little bit more relaxed, sometimes it's a lot easier to get those things done.
That's interesting. And I love that you're working sometimes like at the same time, to where, all right, let's massage first and then let's chiropractic, and it's going to be a much better outcome. I love it.
Yes. Yes. And we try and do like even, if they're working with a vet and they needed to go get injections or what have you, we'll be doing that stuff in between. And sometimes these things can help prolong the injections that they just got. So it's like sometimes if it's an issue, we approach, massage chiropractic. If that doesn't help fix the issue, then, we go to the vet and we work together as a team to try and come up with the best solution for a horse.
I love it. I love that approach. We could probably sit and talk for an hour about different feeds and different supplements and
Oh,
whatever
golly.
new thing is popping up in my Facebook feed tonight when I sit down and scroll.
Yeah.
But are there any machines that you currently use, or any supplements or anything like that that you've seen that's really benefited the massage side of this?
Oh, absolutely. So fun fact, I will not bring on a product or a service unless I have tried it and I have said, okay, this has made a difference in my horse. I'm going to bring it on. Because I don't want to bring in a bunch of stuff and then it not work for people. And so the very first thing that I got for my business was Back on Track. So they actually make stuff for horses, people, and dogs. And it is a therapeutic line of products, and they have special fibers in every single product that they make that helps with muscle soreness and increased blood flow and muscle tension. And people use a lot of their stuff while traveling. Horses get super sore while traveling up and down the road. And so I brought that stuff in because I'm like, yes, I want that. If I've got a horse that's super sore, I want to be able to just have him go throw on a sheet that I know is going to do some good. And so that's probably the most popular thing that I have. I order so much stuff for my clients. It's ridiculous, but it's because I love it and I believe in it. And a lot of people believe in it, and I believe in the company. And so that was the first thing. And then I brought on a couple of joint supplements as well. The one is called Eterna Pure. It was previously Summit Animal Health, but now they switched names to Eterna Pure, but it's because they started making a human version. So it's their very first product. It was the Summit Max, is what it was called, and it was for horses, and it's manufactured in Florida, but it is the chondroitin that's in the vial. And so your chondroitin is kind of what I like to call your main ingredient in like your ligaments. And so it's literally the chondroitin in sterile water, and that's all there is to it. And so it's an injectable. Now they have like oral for dogs and cats, and then they made an oral for people also. And I give it to our two old geldings that we have, and one of them has severe navicular changes, like bad, like he's sore all the time, gets super stove up in the winter. My other gelding had a really bad fetlock injury. He got an infection in there, and it was a career-ending injury for him. And so I gave Summit to them both. When I first heard about it from a tech that I work with at our vet clinic, and I was like, yeah, I'll try it. Like anything that I could try. If you believe in it, like that makes me believe in it because you are in a veterinary profession. So I gave it to my two horses, and they act like they're 3 years old after I give it to them. Like they have just moved so well. And so I was like, okay, sign me up. I want to give this out to people because I could name a list of 50 people that I think it would help. And then I've got Lubricin, which is also another joint supplement, but that one is the hyaluronic acid. So that's found like in it's your joint fluid. And so as we age, we start losing the hyaluronic acid. Same in people, same thing for horses. And so that's just an oral. It's like a more syrupy consistency. And so I mixed it in my grain. I gave it to my mare Misty that I named this business after, and I credit that stuff for making her live as long as she did. And so that's kind of what I've got right now. And those are the things I believe in, and slowly working on adding some more services. I've got some really big plans, hopefully for 2025 for my business. And so we are diving deep into research of different services that I want to bring in, different tools that I want to bring in. So
I love it. So not only are we doing the massage, we're also working with chiropractors, but we're also providing products that you can use
yes,
on like a day-to-day basis that's going to help their overall health.
correct.
Holistic
I
approach.
wanted stuff that went hand in hand. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted stuff that was going to be a benefit. And like I said, I just wanted to bring stuff in that I knew worked for
Mm-hmm.
people.
Right. So if somebody's interested in any of them products, can they just reach out to you? Can you order it for them? Do you have it on hand? How does that work?
Yep. So as far as the Back on Track and the Lubricin, you can just shoot me a message of what you want. I can order it and I can have it drop shipped to your door. So I don't keep a ton of stuff on hand unless I've got, a lot of vendor shows coming up. But it's super easy for me to just drop ship it to you. And then I have a link for the Eterna Pure that you just order off of, and it comes right to you.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, if you need them products, get them. Get them.
Get them. They'll make you feel really good. I have a lot of people that can attest to the human version too.
Oh, okay. There you go. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I've got two PRCA guys right now that are on it. I've got a bareback rider and a bull rider that are on it, and they said that they have felt a lot better being on it. So
Perfect. Test it out for yourself and your horse at the same time.
Exactly. I do have this one horse that every time I go there, like, he is a snob, like, he is a massage snob, and if I do not work on him first, he stands there and he just pouts at the trailer, and he just gives me the death glare the whole time because he's mad I'm not working on him first. It is a legit thing, like, he gets so offended if I touch any other horse before him. Yeah. And then I guess a few years ago, I had a gal reached out to me about a horse, and she wasn't super consistent with the information that she was giving me. And so I ended up having a lot of questions, and we talked quite a bit about this horse's history, and a lot of it just was not adding up. And we met at some arena, and it was snowing outside, and I thought, hey, let's go into this barn over here and just try and get out of this snow and out of this wind and whatever. So we get in there, and I'm trying to work on him, I think, and he's not having it. So this gal is holding the horse. I'm trying to work on the horse, and then there was a separate gal that was just a friend of hers, just standing like a few feet away from us. Just, we're all just sitting there talking, and he like is trying to kick that gal, like just cow kicking out at her for no reason. This horse was trying to bite me. It was trying to kick me. It had me smashed up against a panel at one point, and I was like, I can't even figure out like how this horse is feeling because he's being so awful right now. Finally, I said, I've never had to do this, but I cannot continue because one of us is going to get hurt, and I just don't know which one of us it's going to be, and it's not worth it to me, and I'm sorry. And she had actually asked me prior. She's like, "Can you sedate him?" And I was like, "Okay, first of all, no. If I sedated him, like I would get zero accurate reading on anything. And second of all, like I'm not a vet. I can't just like go to a vet clinic and say I need some sedation because I'm going to massage a horse. Like they're not. I can't just do that, and I cannot just administer sedation. Yeah, let me just pull out some xylazine here and yeah. So that was kind of like, and I knew she was upset, and she still has not contacted me since like till this day, which is fine. Like I understand like the frustration of the situation, but it just was not worth it to me to get hurt. After being like smashed up against the panel and like getting a hoof like this far away from my head, I was like, you know what? We're done. We are done. This horse is not safe. I don't know how else to make him happy, but he's just not, and we're just not getting anywhere.
So I would say that was definitely a learning experience for you.
Yeah, after that, I started being like, I didn't even charge her for it. I was like, you know what, let's just chalk it up to he's just not having it today. Like it's no one's fault really, and I just left it at that. They were like an extended friend of one of my close friends, and then I was thinking about that after, and I was like, no, I should have at least like made her pay mileage because I had to drive to her, and then it was just a wreck. And so after that, I was like, okay, if I end up running into this situation again, this is how I'm going to go about it. And so yes, it was a learning curve, and I learned what I wasn't going to put up with. It's fine if horses are fidgeting. That can be actually one of their release signs, whatever. But if a horse is being just flat dangerous, like I'm not going to put up with that. And I learned that.
But also with that, did you learn like the red flags to when you need to turn a client away?
Yes, I did. Yeah, and I've started asking people a lot more specific questions and a lot more like I want to get the story straight. And so, yeah, I've done a lot more like a deeper consultation with them, we'll say.
Right. Yeah, that
Okay,
makes
yeah.
sense.
Yep.
In this process, have you ever looked back and been like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that I just made that mistake, or I cannot believe that this just happened? It really should have been on video.
I mean, nothing like funny like that, I guess, has ever happened to me, but there are some days where I question like why did I even start doing this? Because it's been like there it comes with its own challenges. So there have been days that I'm like, whose idea was this? Like, and why did I think that this was a good business to start?
I love it. So, with that, I like to call it my crying in the closet moment. And we kind of touched
Hmm.
on it a little bit. And you had said that when you came back after Miss Rodeo South Dakota, that it was a big struggle in itself. But have
Yeah.
you ever had that crying in the closet? I have no idea why I started this. I don't know how I'm going to sustain it moment in this business.
Oh, yeah, multiple times. So I live in an area where there are quite a few other equine body workers, we'll say, whether they do massage or they do chiropractic. There's a lot of people that they don't do it because they believe in the therapy actually helping horses, and they don't do it because their heart wants to help horses. They see dollar signs. And so there are a lot of people that have been, going around claiming that they do this, but they don't have a ton of education. I chose to continue my education with equine therapy. I have to do continuing education for my human license, but I have chosen to keep educating myself on equine therapy because for I love it. I'm a science nut. I love that kind of stuff, but it's because there are so many different types of horses out there. I want to be able to help a wide variety. So I get these people that go out not 100% sure what they're doing, make a client like very uncomfortable, not happy with the job that they're doing, and so then they put a bad taste in those clients' mouths. So then it's even harder for us that actually care about the animal, care about helping, and it makes it super hard for us to gain more clients because we're constantly fighting the people that don't actually know what they're doing. And that's been super hard. And it's like, I've always tried to set myself apart from the other massage therapists in the area. And that's why I started, bringing in different product because not everyone was, had product on the side that they were selling. And so I'm like, if I can provide some stuff that I believe in that I think is going to be a benefit along with the massage, then I'm going to do that. And so that's, I have had a ton of moments where I'm like, what if I just sell my business and the clients that go along with it and my Equivibe plate that I bought and like just be done with it because I feel like I'm just constantly fighting this battle of I can't get clients because they have just been ruined by somebody and or clients that I try and give them advice and tips and whatever and they don't listen to any of that and they're not trying to help their own horse. And so those are probably my like crying in the closet. I want this to be my full-time job. I want to build an equine facility and I'm like, how in the world am I ever going to get there dealing with this kind of stuff? And that was probably the biggest thing that I have, yeah, my crying in the closet has definitely been about that and wondering if this is a business that's going to, sustain itself and be a full-time income for me.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I can completely understand that whole line of thought. So,
Yeah.
what I was going to ask next is what do you think is the biggest problem or struggle in your industry? But I think you kind of just nailed that one.
I did. Yeah, that is definitely the biggest problem, and I've talked to other people and, the chiropractor that's out of Rapid that I was telling you about when she very first started and we started talking, she's like, "I'm having such a hard time like getting people to jump on board with chiropractic." And I sat there and I explained to him like there are so many people around here that just don't give correct information or don't do the job correctly and don't have the education. I'm like, it's ruining. And so you just have to put in that much extra effort to say, I'm not here just to take your money. I'm not here to ruin your horse. I'm here to help you. I'm here to educate you. And like, I actually care about you. And so that's, I mean, now she's very much booked up and doing great. But so yeah, that's definitely the biggest challenge for sure.
So, if somebody isn't in your region, but they're interested in this type of service, whether it be chiropractic or massage, because I feel like this will work for both of them, but what are some questions that they should ask when they're interviewing somebody or when they're talking to somebody about potentially booking a session with them that would maybe
Yeah.
combat the getting a crappy one?
Yeah, absolutely. My first question is typically like, has your horse ever been worked on? Doesn't matter if it's massage or chiropractic. Has your horse had any type of therapy done to it? That gives you an idea if this horse is going to be receptive or if you're going to have to be a little more careful approaching the horse with a brand new thing. The next question that I ask is, what does this horse do? Is he a ranch horse? Is he a rodeo horse? If he's a rodeo horse, what event does he do? Because then that gives you an idea right off the bat of, things. If he's a team roping horse, if he's a head horse, always going left, like giving you different clues of what these horses might be having issues with. Next thing I'll ask is age. That gives me an idea of, not only behavior if they're a younger horse, but are we going to be seeing horses that don't have as good of range of motion because they're arthritic, because they're older? And then I'll ask if that horse had been to a vet for that specific issue. Sometimes I'll get asked questions where it's like, I'm not going to touch that horse until you take it to a vet and get it cleared for this type of therapy. So those are probably my top questions that I will ask before proceeding.
So, with that, if me as a consumer is interested in the service and I'm talking with somebody, so I need to be looking for them having questions for me and just having knowledge as to what's going on. Is that kind of what I'm picking up on?
Yes. Also, to give you an example, I have a friend that does the MagnaWave, like the pulsed electromagnetic therapy. Love it, believe in it, 100%. Like, I've sent horses her way. But there is sometimes certain conditions that horses have, like it's called PSSM. It's a polysaccharide storage myopathy, and there's different types. But it's basically one of the types is when they just produce so much like sugars in their body, and then they can't burn it off. And so when you do like these types of therapies, sometimes it can almost make it worse because you're working on them, and then it's like their body is like, holy cow, like there's so much stuff that's going through my body and getting worked on, and it can almost make them feel worse. And see that's one of those things where um someone may not know that their horse has it, but if they tell you, then that's something that you need to be mindful of. And that's just an example that I did run into with one of my client horses. And she told me like all of these symptoms this horse was having. And so we started going through like everything: vet care, feed, farrier. Like we were checking every single box and trying to figure out what we could do to help. And then I was so frustrated when I went home because I'm like, why do I not have an answer for this? And I'm like, I know I'm not a doctor, but I just feel like there's got to be something obvious here. And I'm laying in bed, and like a light bulb came on, and I texted my vet like this super long message because we had actually shared the same veterinarian. And I'm like, could this be this disease? And he was like, yeah, that's a very strong possibility. And so I was like, okay. So I reached back out to her and I was like, change your feed. I was like, get like a ration balancer. Don't get anything with like super high sugars. Like, quit giving her alfalfa. Just stick to grass hay. Like, and then I was like, go exercise or go ride her, whatever. And she started getting better after that.
That's awesome.
But it's like that, yeah. That's just one of those examples that if someone is actually educated, they're going to know that stuff, or they're going to reach out to someone that will know to
Right.
be able to help you.
That makes sense completely. Towards the end of the interviews, I always like to ask the same question. If you could go back in time to when you were first starting this and give yourself some advice, what would it be? And what would you tell yourself about this business?
Man, that honestly, I would say you have an absolutely wild idea in your head, but don't stop pursuing it. I'm hoping that maybe next year I can actually start putting the work in for my equine facility. If I can get everything aligned this year, like I would love to be building it by next year or like next fall. And I was like putting into a business plan, and I'm like, if I present this to someone, they're going to be like, this is the most insane idea I've ever been presented with. And I don't know how your business is going to make money, and especially if you're presenting it to someone that's got zero idea of equine industry whatsoever. And so if I had to go back and tell myself, would be, you have an insane idea, but don't stop pushing for it, because this is what sets your soul on fire.
I love it. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I have lots of insane ideas frequently. So I get it. I get that completely.
Yeah, I started adding up all the things and I'm like, okay. They're going to look at me and go, "You're insane."
That's a big number.
That's a big number. And I'll be like, "You're right. It is a big number. But here's the number that I could potentially make in the first year of having it. Does that make it better?"
So be on the lookout, because Mistified Massage obviously have some big plans brewing.
Oh, yeah, they're big. I sat down with a piece of notebook paper and I started writing, like drawing out what I wanted, and finally actually like gave it to someone that's qualified to like put it into a pretty little blueprint so I can actually see it and get correct dimensions or whatever. So there's been a lot of work so far that's gone into it.
That's exciting. I can't wait to see what happens next.
I can't either.
So that's all that I have. Is there anything else that you'd like to add or talk about?
I don't think I have anything. Just thank you so much for letting me be on this podcast with you and letting me promote my business and what makes me happy. So I love it. I love that you're supporting small businesses, because this world needs more small businesses, and it thrives off of them. So thank you for shedding a light on, I'm gonna cry, little people like me that have a dream.
So that's what this is all about. It's all about the people that put their heart and their soul into these businesses. And you are not the first person that has teared up talking to me about their business. And that's why I do it. Like, every business owner has a story and almost everyone wants to share it. So let's shout it from the rooftops.
Well, I love it. So yeah, I didn't think that was gonna happen, but yeah, it's fine. It's just when you're so passionate about it, it floods.
That's exactly right. Martina, can you just take a second and tell everybody where they can find you? And all of your links will be below if they want to check you out.
Yeah, if anyone is interested in booking a massage, or just has questions, or just wants to check out what I've been doing on social media, you can find me at Mistified Massage LLC on Facebook and on Instagram. Feel free to send me a message on there, and my email is also linked. Email and phone number is also on my Facebook for you to contact me.
So, okay. Well, that's all that I have. And thank you so much for joining me, Martina. It was a
Sweet.
great interview.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Another great episode. And once again, I learned so much. I love that with the equine massage, that it's working like with the holistic approach. The horse, it's working on the muscles with chiropractor, with the vet. I love it. It's a great way to go about the keeping your equine animals safe and at their best. So I absolutely loved it. I learned a lot. And thank you again, Martina, for chatting with me. That is all that I have for today's episode, and thank you for joining me. If you would like to watch the video version of this, you can find it below or search Brassy Business Podcast on YouTube. Make sure to follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and look us up on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok so we can stay in touch. Have a great day, and I'll see you next week. Brassy Business Podcast is a Black Cows production.